to this new episode of Voices of Boost, the podcast where we dive deeper into big ideas, challenges and opportunities in our energy and utilities industry. Today I'll be talking to Rick from Kanari, part of the Conscia group. You're focused on observability and monitoring, but can you introduce yourself a bit, what your role is within the company, and then we'll dive deeper into the concept of observability.
Yeah, that's
Welcome,
fine.
Rick.
Yeah, so my name is Rick. I joined Kanari about a year ago, or actually a year ago and 5 days ago, so relatively new in the company. Kanari, before the acquisition of Conscia, which was at the end of September last year, is focusing on the observability market niche. That's the only thing they do. So you see a lot of traditional IT partners that focus on the infrastructure, networking and security. We are focusing only on observability, which is, and we dive deeper into it at a later stage, which is a next step in monitoring your IT landscape. So it brings it more together.
Yeah. And during the preparation of our podcast, you told me a story about the canary in the mine.
Yeah.
Can you explain a bit more about that? What's the idea behind that?
Yeah, so initially they had another name, but they wanted to get a better name that was closer to the observability market. And actually, if you compare it with a canary in the mines, you know, the canaries previously in the mines, they were the first one actually to proactively kind of identify if there was a gas leak. And that's why we are Kanari right now, because we see we have tools in that sense that can identify proactively if things are not going the right way in your IT landscape.
Yeah. So I notice in your explanation that there's a difference in monitoring, traditional monitoring and observability. But where is the biggest difference?
Yeah,
there?
so monitoring is a bit like what was the first step basically in the journey towards observability. Monitoring is more on the tool itself. Observability is the next phase into that. So you go from reactive into a more proactive approach in your IT landscape and to monitor what is happening actually. And with observability, you can get alerts if something is happening, or they see if something is moving in a wrong direction, that they see things might go wrong already. Then you can proactively get a notification instead of that your environment is down already.
Yeah, so it's actually better for the peace of mind.
Yeah.
And are there any concrete examples you can share about how observability has improved uptime for a customer, for example?
Well, observability is around for, I think, more than 15, 20 years right now already. But it's also obviously been a journey. But the companies or the organizations that were always a bit more ahead were financial institutions, because every millisecond obviously made a difference, right? With bank transactions, but also within the stock market that you can see. So we actually support a big bank in the Nordics. And that has also been a journey. So initially we supported them from a consultancy perspective on the tool itself. But now we really take it as a managed service. And actually, we have a webpage that is available for consumers to actually see if something is happening or if something is out. Then that website actually shows. And that helped that bank actually to reduce the amount of complaints, because consumers could actually already go to the website and identify, okay, there's an outage. This is the time. They're working on it. So most likely it will be resolved pretty soon.
Yeah. So not everyone starts calling the customer service because they can monitor themselves actually what's happening with their bank system. Right, cool. You use a lot of different technologies like App Dynamics, Datadog, Splunk, and some others. But how do you decide which kind of technologies are actually the best fit for your customer or for the landscape they already have?
Very good question. Indeed, we use different kind of observability tools in that matter. But how we actually start with the customer is really bringing more. So the tool, how we approach it, is 10% of the full project itself. 20% is the process, but the most or where we really make the difference is bringing people together. So what you traditionally see within an organization, you have different kind of departments. They do at some point really collaborate, but in certain cases also not. So what we try to do is actually connect those silos, as we call them, to make sure that they all have a same view on it, and that we can help them to craft a unified observability strategy that is adopted by the whole organization. So that's the people, the process, and then the tool itself. But we're really going to look at what is the use case, and then from the use case we identify what is the tool that is best fit for that organization, but also from a total cost of ownership perspective. Because obviously customers are interested also in the cost of a solution. But then you want to really see, because there's different kind of tools in the market and they also have the pros and cons. And that's why we really focus on having interviews with people first to identify what is the use case, to make sure that we help them craft a unified observability strategy that we can help them to also roll out.
Okay, that sounds logical. So you have mentioned it shortly or briefly. Observability is more and more intertwined with business KPIs.
Yeah.
So how do you then actually translate like technical metrics that you can observe through all those systems and technology to a tangible business insight for the users of the technology?
Also a good question. Obviously, you are well prepped. No, so back to the 70-20-10. Actually, initially, when we started this business, we were more involved with the IT landscape. But you indeed, what you already said, you see that it's shifting towards IT needs to support the business. So what we currently also try to do if we get engaged with a customer is actually, okay, who is responsible from an IT perspective? But can we also involve someone from the business so that we really make sure that what the metrics are is also aligned to what the business wants to get out of the IT environment in that sense. So we also, in that sense, it comes back to the 70%. That's also why it's 70% on the people, because we bring people together to make sure those metrics and KPIs are aligned.
All right, cool. And did you notice, some common pitfalls for companies who are implementing observability solutions in their processes? And more importantly, how can you help them not to trap in the pitfalls that you see?
So the biggest pitfall, also there we come back to the 70-20-10. Where we traditionally see still happening a bit, and that's why we try to challenge also organization, bring people together. People are very focused on their own department to make sure that if an outage is occurring, that it's not them, but that is not in the interest of the business. Mm-hmm. So what the biggest pitfalls that we see is that departments are actually not communicating with each other, and to make sure, and that's where we help them to get that unified observability strategy, and that's why we also challenge customers. Okay, if you want to invest in an observability journey, fine, but please make sure that we involve the people from the business so that we align the KPIs and metrics, etc., to have that holistic view, so to say.
So it's quite an intensive process, I can imagine. So I can also imagine that not all companies are on the same level. But you've told me something about an observability maturity test.
Yeah.
How does that work? And how do you measure the maturity with companies before you start such a project?
Yeah, so we have a observability maturity test on our website. I don't want to give everything away because then everyone is 100% correct already. Yeah. But no, so this is a first step to identify where a customer is in a journey in the observability area, so to say. So this is that. Prospects for us, they can fill it in. We identify some gaps and also some quick wins where we can help them, or they can do it themselves, obviously. But most of the times, if that happens, we contact the customer, obviously, or the organization, and make sure that we get a meeting with them and discuss the end results with them, to also make sure that we do a follow-up, and then it comes back to the 70, 10, and 20 again, to make sure that we start to align people and bring people together to have that unified strategy on it.
Okay, that's clear and interesting, I think, for companies who are looking into a solution like that.
Yeah.
Now, everyone's talking about AI as well.
Yep.
So have you thought about AI within the observability space? What do you predict as the role for AI within your business, actually?
Well, a personal one on AI, I have to admit, if you compare it with 2 years ago, how a student life was and how it is currently, that's a massive change, right? And I think we use it ourselves as well. I actually asked you did your prep work really well on the questions. I actually asked you as well, did you use any kind of co-pilot? So it's a compliment to you. Currently, you see that AI is more reactive. It will become more proactive. But that's also where I see the challenge, also from a security perspective. Because students nowadays, they look at AI or they go to ChatGPT, they fill in or they raise a question and they get an answer and they think it's correct and they just hand it over.
Yeah.
But that's also the pitfall, in my opinion, with AI. You need to make sure that you are secure around that. So I compare AI a little bit in the security area. You have organizations that know that are being hacked, and you have organizations that don't know they have been hacked. Every organization most likely have been hacked already, but it's a matter if they know or not. So I think, and there it comes back also kind of to the 70, 10, 20 and 10 again. You need to make sure that you start to align the people and that you have a process in place to adopt a good AI strategy. And what we see with our vendors, like indeed AppDynamics, Dynatrace, they all start to use more and more AI, but also make sure that it's in a secure way. That organization can trust that if AI is being used, that it's also in a secure way, and that it's that organization can be confident that it's rolled out in the right way.
Yeah. And then talking about these new emerging technologies, cloud was also a wave like that.
Yeah.
The transition, let's say, from on-premise solutions to cloud environments.
Yeah.
I can imagine that there's also a lot of complexity there with a lot of APIs, ins and outs to other systems, etc. Yeah. How can you get the full overview of such a complex landscape? Is that also possible with the observability solutions?
To some degree, it's possible. The downside, so to say, what you see with SaaS vendors is they deliver a service towards either an integrator or an end customer, but their environment is closed. So there are tool sets that can identify which SaaS supplier is the one that actually fills in that matter, but to really see in the clouds itself, we can't. Well, within Azure or within AWS, they also have kind of observability toolings, but then still you are dependent on the supplier of a specific solution, and there you have an SLA with. So what we can do, we identify which SaaS supplier or vendor it is. Either we take the responsibility if we deliver it as a managed service and reach out to them, but sometimes we can't because the organization or our customer has actually a direct SLA with them. But then we direct them immediately to the root cause instead of them. Where's the issue? We have more than 10 environments running. We don't know where it is, but it's impacting our business. So we want to make sure that our customers, or actually partners, how we drive it, because it's a mutual gain in that sense, are being directed in the right direction as soon as possible, so the outage is not affecting their business.
Okay, that's clear. So it's actually a matter of also training people how to use the systems, because it's not only implementing things and let it do its thing. It's also about the people who are using it. So it's not only the IT systems, but also, like the user experience around it. Yeah. So how do you actually, with Kanari, improve the user experience? Do you make it easy by implementing your tools for people to get the full overview of a system?
Well, you have observability, which is more in the IoT landscape, so to say. Everyone is nowadays also using an endpoint, a laptop or a tablet or a phone. We also have an observability, which is a portfolio which is called Digital Employee Experience, which is actually monitoring how the experience is of an end user on their endpoint. So that is actually monitoring the operating system, such as macOS or Windows. But we also look in how the applications are actually performing on their endpoints. Mm-hmm. So we identify if a user is experiencing a bad experience on their endpoint. Most people don't even raise a service ticket, right? But what you see there is that people do they're not being productive at that time, which is obviously not a good result for a company, right? So there we do some smart things that from a distance we can actually advise them, oh, you need to restart your computer as an example, or we can actually make sure and force it that it will be rebooted, because how often do you reboot your laptop yourself? Most likely maybe once a month, or if that's finally that update comes up, oh damn, I have to do it, and you've postponed it already for 5 times. But that's where we help as well. So it's a combination. Our observability portfolio consists observability itself for IT environments, but we also support them on the from an employee and endpoint perspective.
Yeah, so actually all things underneath the hood are monitored or observed, but also how people use the systems and how they can be more productive or efficient when they encounter other issues. Yeah. Okay, that's also interesting. Now, maybe to close off, because this was a very interesting talk, and I think we have a good overview of what the services are that you offer. But what innovations or trends do you see emerging still within this space? Let's say in the upcoming 2 to 3 years, for example.
Well, it's a great question. I think you touched upon one already, which is the AI, obviously. That will... Well, I think in the next year or so, that will take a big shift, and we'll also automate a lot of processes around it. Yeah, what I already said, it's very hard now with a crystal ball to look at it. If you review the example that I gave as a student 2 years ago with now, how massively that impacted the life of a student already. But not only a student, but how can you imagine what a teacher has to go through, because they read reports and hopefully assume that it's written by the student itself, but it's very hard to actually discover if it's being written by themselves or not. So for me, it's a bit difficult. That's also conversations that we have. Actually, we have our kickoff of Kanari in about 2 weeks, and we will have a dedicated workshop of about 2 hours that's going to be dedicated. Which developments do we see in the market? Where do we need to focus on? Where do we need to make sure that we already proactively start to make some investments into it, so that we can support our customers in the best possible way?
All right, that sounds interesting. I see a lot of possibilities, which I love. So I hope the future brings a lot of opportunities still, while technologies are emerging, and with the workshops and the ideas that you have, there's certainly a vision within Kanari around observability. So,
well, and I think that's also what I said as the example. The organizations that are ahead were the banks, right? Financial institutions. Obviously, we're in here because we have the Boost event with a lot of utilities. We have had some conversations obviously with some utilities. We have also customers in the utility market. But for them now, I think the shift that you will see is not keeping the lights on anymore, but really making sure that they are proactive, resilient, right, in a security way, and also in a sustainable way, which is, I think, becomes more and more important in the utility market, right? No waste, etc. But also making sure that you use your resources in the right way to be sustainable. So I'm looking very much forward to the event. It will be a great learning for myself and also for the people from Kanari and Conscia. So, that's a great conclusion, I think. I would like to thank you for this conversation. And I would also like to thank our viewers and listeners for tuning in to this edition of The Voices of Boost. And we hope to see you next time.